Welcome to the Earthworks Podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon from many of our turf friends from the past 30 years.
Hi, everybody. This is Joel Simmons, and this is the Earthworks Podcast. I have the great pleasure of having a friend, Josh Fleisher, who is the director of agronomy at Addison Reserve Country Club. I don't even know what town you're in. I know you're in Florida. What town are you in?
I'm in Delray Beach, but I live in Jupiter.
I did know that. Okay, so you're on the east side of the state. I have Marshall Evans with me, and these two gentlemen, I'm hoping they will tell us some stories of their days at Horry Georgetown when they were in college. But I tried to prep them a little bit on this, and I'm not sure what kind of good stories we'll get out of that. But you guys go way back. I mean, that was what, 20 years ago now, almost.
2007.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Josh, first question is, was he a decent student at all? Did he actually go to class? Did he learn anything?
I'm not sure at that point in time that we were really too interested in education at Horry Georgetown. The program is definitely a lot different now under that direction than when Marshall and I went to school there.
Yeah. It was my last semester, so I was rolling out. I was finishing out. I was ready to hit the finish line in May, so I was good.
So you would already checked out halfway through. I'm writing notes down here. Marshall's afraid that he might get terminated live on a podcast, but I don't think it's going to happen.
It was a good run since February. We'll see.
Yeah. How long have
Marshall and I are also, sorry to cut you off, Marshall and I also, I know a lot of people have heard about the tattoos, but both of us actually do have one. So we have mole cricket tattoos out there. There's about 8 of them.
Oh, you have the mole cricket. That's hence the name Mole Cricket on your Twitter handle. That's very funny. I didn't even know that was their mascot until I met Marshall. I didn't know the mole cricket. What is a mole cricket anyway?
Oh, in Florida, it is the second largest turf grass pest, right behind golfers.
Oh, so it's that mole cricket. All right, I wasn't sure. Is there? Do they have like a mascot at Horry Georgetown, like a guy in a mole cricket suit or anything?
I don't know if they've adopted it officially.
The turf team,
the turf department, it definitely is well known. I mean, that's one of the flags behind Marshall there. That's the alternate logo. That's not the one that we were using when we were there. But as Charles Granger says, that's the original mole cricket design right there.
Oh, that's funny. Is that the tattoo?
No. He has boxing gloves on, but he's also breaking a golf club. Yeah.
So is there a story here? Did you guys all get like really drunk and go at midnight to some local dirty tattoo artist and have him put mole crickets on you?
I mean, that's not we weren't that drunk, but it didn't take a lot of convincing. It was something that we talked about for a long time. And
so there was a plan.
It's a band of brothers kind of thing. I mean,
that's cool.
Josh Dunaway, who's at Augusta Country Club, he doesn't have one, but he was there. Matt Hecko, who is also involved in the golf business, has one. So, I mean, everyone who got one that night is still heavily involved, except for one person who's now a pilot.
And trying to cover up his mole cricket tattoo.
Yeah,
that's too funny. That's a great story, though. That is a lot of fun. Josh, tell us a little bit about yourself. So you guys graduated in the mid 2000s. Were you working before you went to Horry Georgetown?
No,
in the industry.
So golf really changed my life. To be 100% honest with you, I come from the southwestern part of Virginia, down in Roanoke, and
I didn't know that.
I was just thought I was going to be a professional athlete, kind of typical high school kid, no real direction, played football, baseball, wrestled growing up. And then when sports didn't pan out, I had to find another alternative. And I knew that turning wrenches working at an auto shop was not it.
Yeah.
So I started playing golf on a 27-hole property called Roanoke Country Club. Some of my friends really kind of took me under their wing, and their parents, allowed me to chase the game of golf, we'll say. And then just happened to see the superintendent one day when I was playing an emergency 9. I was like, talking to my friend, like, what does that guy do? And just rolled the dice, and knew a friend who was going to school with Marshall. His name is Chad Carr. He's in Richmond, Virginia currently. and he was going to Ori Georgetown, so went down, checked it out. Thought, what I mean, again, what's it gonna hurt if I just try? And interned at Valhalla in 2008 when we held the Ryder Cup. Graduated in 09, went to work for Eric Spurlock at Hermitage Country Club.
We know
right
Eric
across the
very well.
street from Kinlock. And so the Earthworks for me goes way back. I mean, because I remember, my first Earthworks Academy was at Kinlock.
Oh, okay. It's funny. I thought you were going to say that, and I, that goes back in my brain is a little fried. But that was a fairly big academy, and it was one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and Kinlock, of course. Pete Went was there at the time, and we did an awful lot of business during that construction and through those years. In fact, I used one of the pictures in my academy from Kinlock where he had some beautiful humification going on in those soils, but. So you got to work for Eric. That must have been fun. I love Eric. He's a great guy. He's working as a sales rep for us in the Virginia market, but he's just a great guy. I'd forgotten that you had been over there. What was it like? You were growing. What was the grass there when you were at Hermitage?
So we were still all bent grass. We had the
That's
35 acres of fairways and greens.
Yeah.
And then the fescue rough.
So this was your first real job was in Virginia. So you didn't work in the industry at all before you went to Ori Georgetown.
No, just internships. I did interned at Hidden Valley in Salem, Virginia, which is right next to my hometown. And then I worked barefoot while I was going to school. But no, I mean, that was my first assistant job. I was a second assistant spray tech. Had the opportunity to work up to the first assistant role. And then kind of after 5 years at Hermitage, I was like, I saw Marshall on Twitter. He was at Addis at the time doing a project. And again, Josh Dunaway was at Palm Beach Country Club doing a bunch of projects. And I said, look, these guys are doing some big things. And I came down to Florida and I interviewed at Frenchman's Reserve Country Club, worked for Andy Burrow. And Marshall was the only person I knew in Palm Beach County. And again, with a roll of the dice, said it can't hurt to move to Florida and try this ultra dwarf thing. And we'll move back to Virginia after 4 or 5 years. And, 10 years later and a bunch of hours worked later, here I am still in the state of Florida.
Marshall, you're responsible for bringing him down to Florida. Is that what I'm hearing?
As well as he's doing, I'll take credit. If it wasn't going well, I'd say no. But yeah.
So let me go back, Josh. I mean, I love the conversation. I mean, so how old were you when you went to Ori Georgetown?
Probably 22.
So you're a young guy. You're realizing football's, you're not going to be on the NFL stage like 99.999% of football dreamers are. So golf, you fell in love with the game. Mm-hmm. And then it became obvious that there was a career path for you. I mean, that's a story that we hear a lot. And, it's funny because we even hear superintendents when they interview young prospects, one of the first questions is, do you golf? Do you like the game? Have you ever played the game? And a lot of guys are now getting to the point where if we're bringing on somebody who's not, in love with the game of golf, they tend to not have, the status points that they might have if they were a golfer. And it's important to understand what we're doing. And it's kind of cool watching a young guy falling in love with the game and then realizing, hey, there's a career path. And obviously you've done pretty damn well over your career in the last 20 some years doing this. So talk to me, first of all, I'm intrigued by, you went from, first of all, just so people understand, Richmond, Virginia is probably one of the hardest places in the world to grow bent grass. And it's quite honestly god awful. I mean, you guys, Heritage has changed grasses since you were there, right? They've gone to Bermuda, or am I wrong?
Yeah, they converted the mannequin golf course. They went away from the big grass.
Yeah. Were you there then, or you had already left?
I was already gone.
So I knew, but Kinlock next door is still bent grass. And I mean, to grow bent grass in Richmond, Virginia, I could see why you would want to get the hell out and go south and find some Bermuda grass, because that's probably, and the trend right now is people are going further north, are going to Bermuda, pulling out some.
And that was the driving factor to get to Florida, because where else can you learn in a 12-month environment on ultra doors?
Yeah.
And again, I thought I was going to be down here 4 or 5 years, and then I would, get closer to the Carolinas or Virginia. But then I met my wife, and then we had 2 beautiful kids, and they're
Damn,
5 and
see, all
4.
this stuff gets in the way.
Yeah.
Look at Marshall. He's got a whole crew of his at his house now too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that was obviously opportunity provides itself. And when I had the opportunity to come to Addison Reserve, I worked for a gentleman whose name is Mark Heater. And they knew at the time that they wanted to hire someone that they would be able to promote when he moved on. He served here for 15 years, and the opportunity came, and we jumped right into it. We're now leading a $24 million project.
Yeah, we're going to get into that because that's part of what I want to really talk about, but I want to build up to that at first. This was not your first position in Florida. You had mentioned you came down somewhere else.
Right. Frenchman's Reserve, which is in Palm Beach Gardens. I was there for 3.5 years. And I did my first renovation there, and then got the opportunity here to step up to it was a superintendent under a director role, which I kind of felt like I needed at the time. Stepped up into that role, and I've been here for 7 years.
Marshall, what was that place like?
Frenchman's?
Yeah.
It was the poster child for Palm Beach. It looks just like the entrance is enough to make you want to come in. It's got this huge waterfall and all this stuff. It's crazy fountain thing, but him saying that reminded me, I think I've been a part of 6 renovations. This will be your 6th?
Yeah.
5th?
4th.
We've just been in straight
4th.
renovations ever since we pretty much met and graduated. It's been Ibis, Jupiter Island, Kiwi, back up in Clemson, and every time he's been in Florida, which I don't know how Jennifer committed to that, because if she knew how many renovations she'd be doing, he might not have a wife and 2 kids. But
yeah, I was gonna say, how are you getting kids if you're in the middle of renovations all the time?
Yeah, well, good thing we met in the chaos. I met her when I was renovating Frenchman's Reserve, and it's all she's known,
Yeah.
And,
I think we could do a whole podcast on wives in the turf industry, and I think we'd have some great stories. I think that might be something, Marshall, we should look into, because those might be where the best stories are, because these folks are putting up with what we're doing as an industry and going crazy. Josh, let me ask you, you're getting down to Frenchman's Reserve. You're coming from a bent grass golf course in Virginia. Was that a hard conversation in the interview process? Were they not questioning you, in terms of your grass experience?
No, I think, for me, what it was I really explained, like, I'm looking to learn, and like, I'm going to work. And, one thing that I was instilled in me coming from Southwest Virginia is no one will ever outwork me. So if you hire me, I promise you, I'll be the number one guy for forever. And that was how it all started. And they were actually really excited for me how I was going to balance my time, not pulling a hose all the time.
Yeah.
That was going to be a way for me to really dive in the details. And Andy Burrow at the time, I knew that I needed some professional development. And honestly, at Frenchman's, it wasn't really about the grass. It was more about developing me as a professional.
How did that happen? Explain that.
Andy worked for Tom Black at TPC Sawgrass. And if you've ever interacted with Tom, he is the utmost professional.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know Tom, but yeah.
And to be able to pick a little bit of piece of that off of Andy was just monumental for my career. If I would have never moved to Florida, I don't know that my professionalism is where it is today. I probably am a little more unrefined, as I would like to say, but
you do have a mole cricket tattoo, by the way.
Several others.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Some of them were made way before I picked up a golf club.
Oh, okay, that's only fair. Let's go through this. I'm fascinated. You talk about the professional development. What all actually took place? Were you going to seminars? Were you training in-house? What was happening? What did you need, and what did you get?
Yeah, training in-house. The hardest interview that I had before I came to Addison was with Andy. Preparing for this interview, he hounded me, and just, he would make me go to the green committee meetings, go to seminars, got me involved with a professional headhunter that I'd never had that experience before. And it was just kind of all about pushing me to think and speak and think for everybody else at the same time.
So he
So
was just trying to get you out of there. Is that what you're saying?
I
He's
don't
just like,
know. I
I
hope
got to
not.
get this guy out of here. Figure it out.
I
Well,
hope
that's
not.
wonderful. I mean, the recruiter, the headhunter. I mean, I assume you learned resume building and maybe some interviewing skills.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what that was for? Yeah.
It was with Tim Morgan and
Oh, good.
Perfect. With Aspire Golf, and that was another very intense, moment for me. And like I said, I felt like my career went from this level to this level within my first 3 years of being in Florida.
What was the biggest thing you got out of the professional development?
How to make yourself look different, on paper.
Yeah.
I mean, if you put everybody's, from Pete Went to me to Marshall, I mean, everybody kind of looks the same on paper, but how do you make yourself look different?
Yeah.
Those pieces of paper.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, and I think it's one of the hardest things is to help people understand that communication skill, that recruiting skill. I've said this many times on our podcast, but I spent about 5 years as a headhunter before I started Earthworks, and I learned an awful lot about how to communicate. And I was a fairly good interviewer, and my strengths was be able to get people to tell me things that they shouldn't be telling me in interviews. But and I'm sure Tim was probably helping you get through the interview process. But that skill alone is something well worth exercising. I mean, that's a muscle that everybody in our industry needs to really, really exercise. Because if you don't know how to interview, you could be the best superintendent in the world, but you're not going to get past anything. And it sounds like what you did was really go in there and sell yourself. Is that a fair statement?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's what we're always trying to do. And it carries over into the day. I mean, we were talking about it before we came on air, but I was in a hot seat last year with brand new greens and an El Nino. And so being able to sell what we're doing while people are physically watching the grass plants fail because there's no sunshine and the plants are literally dying.
Yeah.
I had to continue to sell myself and why I'm the man for this job.
Yeah. And it's a never ending sales job. I mean, I say this all the time. Everybody's a salesman. I mean, you guys aren't selling products, but you're selling your product at your golf course, and you're selling yourself, and you got to sell it up. You got to sell it sideways. You got to sell it down. And so everybody is, this communication skill, this salesmanship, if you will, is really imperative. What do you do now for your crew? Do you help them in personnel development?
Yeah, I have 3 assistants under me. I have a superintendent, and assistant, 2 assistants. And, I tell them I also serve on the Palm Beach Superintendent Board. So I try to make them go to as many meetings as they can attend. And, I try to put the same thing. I just open up my book to them and say, hey, what do you feel like you need from me to help you get to the next level? Because I can teach you all I can about communication skills and show you the budget and show you where all the money goes. But, it's up to you to invest into yourself as well.
Are they open to that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How active is the association in terms of bringing in, leadership training? Are you bringing in speakers that actually are, above and beyond agronomy and, personal training? I mean, is that still
certainly something we could entertain and look into? I mean, I can't say that we've done it. I mean, we do try to provide quality education for our members.
Yeah.
And that would be a great topic,
Yeah, there's so much technical information at some of these meetings, and they're not the best place necessarily. The golfing meetings aren't the best place for training because everybody's just focused on networking and seeing each other and having some fun. But
for our assistant only meeting, we definitely try to bring in.
Yeah,
I think we've had Pat Jones come and speak.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Pat's great.
We've had Pat on here many times. He's a dear friend, so I can say that comfortably.
We've had round tables with local superintendents. I mean, for the assistant only meeting, we definitely try to drive that career development home to them.
There are a lot of statewide assistant only meetings to help with that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, those are important. I mean, you know, like, I mean, I'm always thrilled to talk to somebody that understands the importance of leadership training, if you will. I mean, I think that's kind of what we're talking about. And, you know, as an industry, we don't really have a good outlet for that. I mean, if you were working in a corporate environment, they would be bringing in leadership programs all the time. And you would learn, you know, communication skills and things that you just don't think you need when you're a golf course superintendent. You know, you need to know, you know, what grass types or what, you know, chemicals, or, you know, what's the soil all about. But, you know, understanding how to talk to each other, communicate up, down, left, and right is imperative. And I'm thrilled that, you know, you had that experience and that you're able to bring that in. Are you one of the superintendents that like to bring their assistants in and train them and then see them move on and help them move on? Is that part of your strategy? Or are you now at a point where you want to keep these guys forever?
Well, we're hopeful that Karen will, you know, stick around for another year at least.
Oh, good. I
He
hope
is
he's
sharp.
listening.
Oh, I hope he's listening too. But and I told him, you know, I've made many mistakes in my life, but hiring him was definitely not one of them.
Oh,
Kid's a stud. He comes from Ireland, so golf is ingrained in him from the moment.
There's that golf thing again.
Right, and he'll move on eventually. I think. I don't think we won't be able to retain him for forever. But yeah, I mean, I'd love for him to move on and Harry, my new guy, to move up. And then we have an AIT starting Friday who would hopefully move up into that role. And I mean, I'm only 3 years into my, you know, directorship here. So I don't have.
It's still pretty new for you.
Yeah.
So where do you find an AIT at this time of the year and in your marketplace?
As a former employee that used to work for me, and Florida Gateway College has a online program that you can do, and actually it's almost free. When he was working for me, I told him, like, you need to do this. You speak Spanish and you speak English. You're already in Florida. You already know what it's like to live and work down here. You could be an assistant superintendent and then into my seat one day. He goes and he works at the First Tee because he was working both and he was very passionate about the First Tee program. And then he just called me and said, hey, look, I see what you're doing on the Twitter and Instagram. I want to be part of it. You told me when I left that you have all the big toys and that this is going to be something special. And, you know, here he comes.
There you go. What was the program you were talking about that he was going to?
It's called the Florida Gateway College.
Explain that.
I have a thing hanging up, but it's a small little 12-week program, kind of like what University of Georgia does. And I'm probably not saying that all correctly.
That's okay. Is it turf related or is it?
It's turf related.
Okay, so it's
horticulture related.
I don't know that I know of that program. I'm glad to see that there's little programs at least that people can get some experience in. That's good.
Yeah, I just saw Kaiser University, you know, another school here in Florida now offering a 2-year turf degree. You know, so the opportunities are out there. We need them bad.
I mean, one of the you know, I had talked to Marshall about getting you on board because I like talking to superintendents in Florida because you guys do have a unique environment. I mean, you know, both of you have worked in this marketplace for a while, but you know, if somebody doesn't understand Florida, what's so unique about it? And I'd like to hear that from both of you. But what's Florida like as a superintendent? And start with Marshall on this one. See if he can set the stage.
It's very, like he said earlier, it's very interesting because it's year round. I mean, our off season is everybody else's on season because in the summer, all the snowbirds grow back where they used to before COVID. Now a lot of them are staying. The percentage of staying, Josh knows more than I do now, but it was awesome. I mean, the summertime is like project time, getting everything done. You airify as many times as possible, and then when everybody else is flip flopping in the rest of the world, we're starting to cut cups in like October and September because everybody's starting to play. So it's been interesting learning that and being a part of that. And now, especially Josh knows it way more than I do because he's still on that side. But
and Marshall, that work that you're doing in the summer, you're doing it in the heat of the summer, so it's hot. Yeah. And Florida, you know, and I think most people probably know this, but you guys get, you know, these, and we're going to talk about El Nino here in a second, but you're getting a lot of showers come and go. So you're getting a lot of interruptions and all that stuff. But
every afternoon, every afternoon.
Yeah. So you're working in the heat of the summer. It just sounds like a fun place. Sounds like a great job. Yeah. Work during your biggest amount of work. Josh, how would you describe this? I mean, you've been down here now. How long have you been in Florida?
Just over 10 years.
Okay. So you've got a pretty good experience in Florida now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Florida, like Marshall said, is a grind. I mean, it's a 12-month operation. We don't stop when it's hot. We're working. When it's cold, we're working. I know people don't think it gets cold down here, but you live here long enough. That's sub 60.
What's your definition of cold?
Sub 60.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cold. That's where I'm putting my shorts on up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm layering up.
I think Brian Beardy said it best, who was at the Everglades Club. Nothing has prepared me more in life than working in the Boca Del Rey market.
Wow.
I mean, our initiation fee is just under 300 grand. And our dues are right at 45 a year. And it's just a high demand. I mean, it better be perfect.
Let's talk about that. So that you're talking about Addison Reserve now. So you got a pretty high-end clientele. Are they all local, or you get a lot of people from in and out? I mean, what's the clientele? What's the membership like?
So when I first started here, we were probably 80% full in season, and then down to 20%
In the summer.
in summertime.
Yeah.
Now we're probably 45% in summertime. So they definitely are spending a little more money, and they have a lot more wealth, I would say. The new clientele that's coming in, they're buying now a $2 million house and then tearing it down and building a $4 million house. So, there's $6 million in to that piece of property. Yeah. And they stick around, but they're good people. They come from the Northeast. I think that was the biggest adjustment for me coming to Florida was I never had much interaction with people from the Northeast. I'm just a good old country boy.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's also what helps us be successful here, is that we're country boys and good old boys, and we always rise to the challenge.
Yeah, well, which is important. Are they golfers, or are they really there just for the lifestyle?
I would say here at Addison, it's a good combination. We have majority that are here for the lifestyle. It's the number 4 platinum club in the country.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's definitely a lifestyle thing. And I mean, some good golfers here and there. Not great members, not great golfers, but good.
How many rounds are you guys getting?
About 38,000 annually.
What are you getting in the summer months? I mean, what are you getting this time of year? So we're recording this last day of July. I mean, are you getting a lot of July and August golfers? You said you're up to 40%.
Yeah, well, I mean, because we're under a project, this year's a little anomaly because of the project. We only have 9 holes. We're about 35 rounds a day. It's really nice. First time we've seen that. But we're paying for all the reciprocals, so they go across the street, down the road. I mean, here in Boca Del Rey, you can hit a 9-iron and hit another golf facility.
Yeah. They're sprinkled all over. Right. Marshall and I have driven around down there, and as I say, you can't throw a dead cat without hitting a golf course.
Yeah. So we're paying for all the reciprocals because of the project this summer.
Yeah. So let's talk about that project. You're going from Bermuda to Paspalum. I guess the first question is why?
So, great question. You see it over my shoulder. That's the 5th hole we did last year. That's actually in grow-in phase, and it looks great there.
It does look great.
And it's my GM, his name is Michael McCarthy. He was playing a golf course in Naples, called me and said, "You have 5 minutes to explain to me why you don't want to do the Paspalum."
No pressure there, right?
Right.
Is that
my simple
true
answer?
Story?
Yeah, true story. Called me on a Saturday, and he was playing Mediterra, and he said, "This place is stunning. You have to see it." I already knew. We have the breakers locally. I'd already seen the breakers and Sailfish Point, and the grass speaks for itself. But it is intimidating. I mean, it's funny. I'm going to tie all this back to Hermitage Country Club, but if I didn't have the 35 acres of bent grass pre-moving to Florida, I don't know that I would like to have the Paspalum as much as I do now.
No, explain that. Why?
Because the disease pressure is just the same. I mean, it stripes up just the same. It provides a very good surface I mean, we mow our fairways at 375 and our tees at 250. Because
Tees are Paspalum?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everything's Paspalum but the greens.
Correct. Tiff Eagle
Okay.
greens.
Tiff Eagle. Okay. So this is your first experience growing Paspalum?
This much of it. By the time we're all said and done, we'll have 110 acres of Paspalum. I had it at Frenchman's Reserve on some tees and tee surrounds. We had about 3.5 to 4 acres of it there. But
What variety of Paspalum are you playing with?
Platinum.
Okay, that's what I assumed. Let me go back a second. I want to hear how you answered your GM. So he calls you on a Saturday and says 5 minutes to explain why you're not doing this. How did you answer that?
Again, I went back, I just ran through, your disease pressure is going to be up. You're going to spend more in fungicides. If we're really trying to be a green community, that's not the footprint that I would go in. But we've learned that our fertility applications are less. We've learned a lot about, but I told them, anyways, finally to answer this question, I just was a little intimidating. No one has this amount of acreage that we're about to take on. And, but I'm up for the challenge. And then we were going to do it in our driving range. And then we were going to do Bimini on the golf course. So we're going to wow them at the range and then severely underwow them by the time they hit the first tee.
Right. Yeah.
So my hands were kind of tied. And again, about being a good old boy, I just wanted to rise to the challenge and see,
and get it done.
People have been successful with it. So let's do it.
Are you guys in a high salt soil environment? Did you go to Paspalum because of salt concerns?
Nope. You
truly are going to this grass for the grass
because we're in the real estate market.
You can see that. Yeah, you can see that in the picture here and behind you.
Yep. 715 homes.
Every single hole is surrounded by homes like the one behind you.
I think I got one
that doesn't have homes.
I have 1.5 that doesn't have any homes on it.
If you're simply listening to the podcast where Josh is sitting there, he's got a picture behind him of what hole is that?
That's the 5th hole of trepidation.
The 5th hole. And it's just, I mean, you got houses everywhere. I mean, it looks like you're lined. And so I assume with that many properties right there, you get a lot of people complaining about 5 o'clock starts of mowers and stuff. I mean, you getting a lot of pressure from the community.
We start at 6 and, we just try to be as polite as we can, and we tell them I'm more than happy to start later, but the tee sheet has to back up a little bit. And once they hear that, no, can't start any later.
Are these people members? I mean, is that these are member communities?
Mandatory.
Oh, it is mandatory. All right. So you have a little leverage there then. So that makes perfect sense. So let's talk about the transition. So walk us through this. I mean, you were growing Bermuda. I assume you hit with 27 shots of Roundup before you could transition out. And how was the transition?
So far, it's been really good. We did spray 3 applications and we threw in a couple other, products. We went with the Roundup Pro Max, which has a little protein in it that helps get the Bermuda a little dead quicker.
Takes it up the plant a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And then we had really good kill. I don't know what we did different, a couple stickers here and there, but we're starting to see it come back. It's definitely going to come back. Everybody who grows Paspalum will tell you, you're going to see it in Bermuda, but you only see it in the morning. You come out here at 2 in the afternoon and I'll drive you around and you can show me some Bermuda if you can find it.
Really? Yeah. Well, explain that. I'm not sure I'm following you.
Well, just because if it doesn't have the dew on it, you can't really. It's so hard to see.
Okay, so it's really subtle.
Joel asked me before we got on, but I couldn't remember. As a crow flies, how far are y'all from the ocean?
Oh, probably 5 or 6 miles.
I couldn't remember what. Yeah. So
what's your Josh? What's your water source? Where are you getting water from?
So we're a direct feed reclaim source. So.
All right.
Yeah, it dumps into Glen Eagles, which is right across the street, and then comes directly into my pump station, and then we actually continues on into St. Andrews.
So this is a community water source. I mean, this is the water from your communities. Was this property originally built to find an outlet for the reclaimed water? Is that, a lot of those courses were built for that reason almost solely, but I would assume Addison Reserve is probably a higher level than that, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, when it
Okay.
was built in 95, I'm pretty sure they were using city water at that time.
So how bad is the water? I assume it's fairly high in salts.
I mean, honestly, people look at our water test and it's not that bad. I mean, it's a little high in nitrates,
Yeah.
but the Paspalum loves that,
Yeah.
which is another benefit. But no, I mean, I wouldn't drink it, but it's
Good.
not, it doesn't smell as bad as everybody thinks it does. I mean, if we get real wet, we start running some heads that are in dry areas so that it doesn't sit in the pipe for long, and it will stink if it sits in the pipe for too long.
Oh boy. What's the sodium level? Do you have any idea? Is it high?
No, it's bicarbonates and sodium are not high at all.
Okay, in the water. So
I mean,
again,
it gets a little worse. I haven't done a soil test in the last few months, so I don't have
Wow.
one sitting in front of me.
You should get a sales rep that knows how to take soil samples. Maybe we can
I
help.
know a guy. I'll be there next week.
Yeah, to say
Yeah.
we can do that for you. I think somehow somebody I know could probably do that for you. So I got to hear the story because we've been kind of dancing around it. But when did you start the transition? A year ago?
Yeah, basically a year ago, everything started to come in. We started the project in May of 23.
Okay.
Opened up in January, and then shut down again in March of this year, and hope to open 9 holes in October and 9 holes in November.
So you did 9. How many? You got 3 9.
27.
Yeah.
Right.
So you did the first 9, and then you're doing 9s, and then leaving the other. So you got a full 18 playing at all times.
Well, yeah. When we open in October, we'll have our first 18-hole loop. We'll finally be open, and then November, all 27 holes, and November 15th, we're going to start at 7:46 on all 3 number 1s.
Yeah.
It'll be go time.
No pressure there on that date, though, right? So you got nailed with El Nino, and you started to allude to that, but I got to hear the whole story. So how bad was it? So here you are, you're in a project, and Mother Nature's not helping you at all, I assume.
Yeah. So
Marshall's shaking his head.
we planted out late last year. My last greens that I sprigged was August 29th. And then we were trying to open in December. We had pretty good greens, they looked healthy. But then around December 10th, the lights went off and the El Nino effect rolled in. We were fortunate. We were not one of the properties that got a lot of rain, but we just had severe cloud cover. We had about 15 days of sunshine from December to mid-February.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And it was, and my older greens that we're renovating right now, they did great. We did a lot of things different where we reduced our top dressing, reduced all the stress, alternated mows and rolls, increased our calcium, and they performed excellent. Probably one of the best seasons I've ever had on those greens.
Oh, great.
And then we had our new ones.
Yeah.
And they, because they were new, lack of biology in the soil is what I tie all this to. They really struggled on some edges. And any area that we scalped in during the grow in period, when the lights went off, they just continued to go backwards. Nothing ever progressed. And that's honestly what led to me getting on the 555 program, because I knew I needed that biology.
Yeah.
That's what my other greens were doing so well, because they had a lot of biology in that soil.
And explain your soil. I mean, your sand construction, your silica sand. I mean, for those who don't know Florida, it's all silica sand. What was the greens mix?
90-10.
Peat moss?
Yep.
Okay. And hot, dry, environment, and you have not the world's greatest water. So yeah, but the El Nino actually just because of rain and cloudiness, I mean, you just couldn't get anything to move.
Yeah. I mean, again, they were planted August 29th, and then they were opened up January 5th, I believe. And again, 90 days were just not great.
So you had alluded to this, but I want you to share this story. I can imagine you're getting a lot of pressure from upstairs. How did you manage that? I mean, it sounds like it's fairly obvious, the answers that you should give, but the fact that the questions, I'm sure, were coming at you left and right. Everybody's under the gun. I mean, you had a start date and they wanted you to get back out there, but how do you handle that? What did you do?
I pulled my bootstrings tight and I showed up to work every day.
Yeah.
And I did not hide. And I stood there on the front lines with my GM who supported me and who listened and who, educated the membership, constant communication, really pulled from what Darren Davis over at Old Florida was putting out, because he was really driving that El Nino train for us as professionals. And, the USGA was doing a great job at providing information for us. And, really just, again, going back to that professional development and communication, using all those skills that I had learned up to this point to get me through. It was the longest winter I've ever experienced.
Great. And it was mostly members, just, I mean, again, I just find this amazing that you'd have these kind of questions when everybody is in the same weather pattern. And it's pretty obvious, right? But you're still getting hammered left and right from every direction, I assume.
Yeah, well, it's like I say everywhere. When when I go play somewhere else, I mean, the blinders go on, right? I mean, if I go play Kinloch, I'm not going to see the spot over there in the left rough because I'm not a paying member.
Right.
But when you're a paying member somewhere, and you can see it from your backyard or you're out your back window, it means a little different.
Yeah. So what's the take right now on the Platinum, on the Paspalum?
Well, the Platinum did great during El Nino. Honestly, that was my saving grace.
So the fairways and everything around it is looking great.
Glowing.
The greens were just a little slower.
Greens were definitely behind, but you can't tell any of that now. I mean, we've had a great summer. We've had 2 great airifications so far on them, and I'm really looking forward to this season because we're gonna let the grass be the show, and we're just gonna get through all the way to March.
Where are you right now in the growing process? I mean, you've got 1-9 closed now, right?
So I have 18 holes closed right now.
Oh, you got 18 holes closed. All right.
Correct.
Sorry.
Correct. We finished. It was going to be a 9-9-9 deal, but I'm glad we're finishing it up now because 2 years construction is enough.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But so we have 9 holes that we're going to open in October, the Redemption 9. Those grasses range from my greens are 6 to 8 weeks planted, to our tees are anywhere from 2 weeks to nearly 8 weeks planted. And then on Salvation, I have 4 holes that are grassed out. I have 5 holes left to irrigate, 2 holes left to build, and 2 holes left to drain.
Wow, so, you are a busy man.
Yeah, we got a lot going on.
I didn't ask you this earlier, but you are redoing the irrigation system?
Oh yeah, we're putting in live old irrigation, just doing our install. We're putting in the Toro 2-wire system.
There you go.
So
all that's new.
All that's new. We did 2,600 linear feet of bulkhead. We've done 5,000 linear feet of SOX erosion control on our lake banks.
Wow.
We've done 7,500 linear feet of storm drainage from 18-inch pipe to 46-inch pipe. We've had a lot going on.
You are crazy. You should get your local salesman down there to help you out a little bit more, pull some wires and stuff,
No, I'm really happy. The whole earthworks thing and the way it's been in my career is honestly, I couldn't be more happier with Marshall and the Dillingers as my supplier. To have that, because we didn't touch on it at Frenchman's Reserve. We used it a little bit before we did the project, the Renovate Plus, because we had some areas on greens that just were terrible.
Yeah.
And I told my boss, I said, look, we use this product when I was at Hermitage, and we had a back left of our 13th green was always terrible. Eric really was committed to this program. And by the time I left, it was the best part of the whole property.
We hear that quite a bit. Let me ask you, you had started to say that, you looked at this as a biological deficiency. Where did you, I don't mean to set this up as a egocentric question, because I know you were at an early academy, but where did you get excited or learned about soil biology? Where did that all come from? From Eric?
I would not say that soil biology excites me at all. I would not say that. I would say that and part of understanding and doing this for a living, I mean, you're going to dive into that world.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
it's amazing. You know, I say that because a lot of people just poo-poo it completely, but clearly you understand it and you've lived it.
and the state of Florida, I mean, battling nematodes, you
Yeah.
know, I think you just kind of naturally kind of get pulled into it, whether you want to be part of it or not. You have to have an understanding of the soil biology.
Right, right. So you got some checks and balances that works. You know, it's funny, and I've said this many times, but when we first started getting into Florida, we thought the biological, you know, the carbon-based material would be very slow to come around because the soils are so, you know, sandy and biologically weak. We found exactly the opposite, which is why we've got Marshall down there and pushing him every single day to get as much going as we can. But you know, yeah, you know, you bring to the point that, you know, sandy light soils need as much you know, support as they possibly can. You know, you had said something, and I'm going to sound self-serving here, but I want to hear this story. You've been using C3 on sprigs, which is not all, you know, something that a lot of guys will do, but you got involved in C3 during the growing. I mean, really, how quickly after sprigging were you hitting it with C3?
The next day.
Oh wow! So you're going right on it.
Right, taking into the fact that, you know, when a sprig hits the ground, there's still that green tissue on it, and
Yeah,
that green
absolutely.
tissue is allowed and will absorb anything that is sprayed on it.
And you
just
weren't
kinda
doing
thought
this.
about it that way.
You weren't just doing this because Marshall has pictures of you guys back in college days or anything.
No,
Well,
again, it goes back to my assistant who's from Ireland, and he's a big believer in kelp and
Yeah.
things that smell like the ocean floor. If we
Yeah.
open a jug and it smells terrible, he gets excited.
Yeah, well, we have the same problem at Earthworks. If it doesn't stink, we're not a very happy group of agronomists. But you know, and C3 is I mean, it's a lot more than just kelp. It's fish and kelp, and there's 30 raw materials in there. But you know, it's fascinating. So, how were you even mechanically able to get anything sprayed on the sprigs? I mean, a lot of guys stay off of the greens, you know, for a while, you know, because of the mechanics of it. What were you using?
Well, we were fortunate that we had such a great phase 2 construction that we were able to get the irrigation, get that cavity nice and packed before we even grassed it. A couple other things we did differently is we didn't cut in any sprigs on our greens. We sat them on top, hand watered them the whole time they're planting, and then we actually put a 1-ton roller on them. And after that, we were able to walk on them with our Han spray bug.
Oh, so you kind of set the table for that.
No, I mean, it was a good conversation with my buddy from St. Andrews, who's also on the board with me, Joe Ramsey.
Oh, really?
He and I had a conversation. I said, well, let's try it. Go one green, uncut, and then within 7 days, it was evident this is the way to go.
So
And
explain that again. So you're just laying the sprigs on the ground. Walk through that process again.
So yeah, they'll come Pike Creek. We get our Tiff Eagle sprigs. We get all our grass from Pike Creek. But they send a team down and they hand plant the green. And as they're planting the green, we get them get a little bit away, and we'll start hand watering the sprigs lightly. And then as they get further away, we'll start 1-ton rolling it to get.
How soon after the sprigging are you rolling?
They're still on the green.
Yep.
Oh, you're doing it immediately.
Oh yeah, they're
okay.
They're probably 2/3 of the way done when that roller hits the
Gotcha.
green.
All right, I misunderstood you. So this is an immediate process, and you're laying them out, and then you're rolling them, and
then you turn the water on,
and then you keep them moist. Yeah,
really wet. One head runs for 9 minutes every hour, so it runs 3 minutes every 20 minutes.
And most of that's going right past anyway. So you're keeping that sprig
that
going.
Humidity.
Yeah, that zone right there. And then the C3 is coming out with a spray hawk, and you're just keeping a little fertility in there.
Right. The next day we come out with the spray hawk and we hit all the sprigs. Again, I'm just looking for something to make me better than I was last year.
Yeah.
And I have the availability to spray those products now. As before last year, I didn't have that availability.
Yeah.
So
how did it work? I mean, did it, you know, what was your take on that, on the C3 application?
If you looked at my greens today, I mean, they're ready to go.
What do they look like, Marshall? Are they ready to go?
Well, I went out there, I think it was the day after he decided to try to do it without cutting them in. And I was like, "You didn't do what?" He goes, "We didn't cut these in." I was like, "Holy cow." And we walked on them. It was great. And his assistant, Kieran, he was been talking about, pulled up and they said, "Hey, we started using that C3 from you guys." And I was like, "What?" I said, "You've already sprayed them?" He goes, "Yeah, we sprayed them. I think it was that morning y'all sprayed them."
Mhm.
And he said they did like a half rate. And then 2 days later, they turned back around and did the full rate. And, but I was excited because, like I said earlier, we've done so many renovations. Everyone I've ever been a part of, you definitely cut them in. There was no skipping that step. But the fact they did it and it looked great, it looks awesome.
Was that a little nerve-wracking, Josh? I mean, you're doing something, a little out of the normal. I mean, I love the idea, and it seems to have been very successful. But
It was
I would have said
very,
the same. Yeah.
it was very nerve-wracking. And the first, that's what we started with, one green, and it was not the one located right next to the main road. It was kind of one that was by itself. We could monitor it.
Oh, you could hide it. Is that what you're saying? You could keep
Yeah,
it
if
going.
it failed, no one would really know. But
That's
again,
brilliant.
it was immediate, like within 7 days, like there's something to this. And it's never one thing that you do. It's always everything you put into the pot
Yeah,
that
of
makes you
course.
successful. But no, I love it. We don't even cut our tea sprigs in anymore. It's just we love it's less stress, less damage on the newly planted plant. Everything kind of ties into something that John Riley said to me at Longbow Key is plant health equals plant performance.
What does John know? Come on now. I'm sure
I'm
he's
going to put that on a sign and hang it in my office.
Yeah. We've had John on the podcast, and I think everybody knows John was a student of mine at Rutgers, and we got a chance to do an academy over there this past spring, and it was wonderful. But man, what a great facility. But yeah, he's a great mentor to have, or somebody. But he cuts his end. I mean, he's not. I mean, how many people are doing what you're doing there with rolling it in?
I think you might start to see it more and more.
Let's hope so.
Bill Hershard at Boca Woods did it.
Did he?
And that's who I kind of got to talking to about it.
He did it before you?
Yep. Well, he's doing the project right now too, but I had seen some pictures and he was, willing to share and open up the curtain a little bit for me.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, that takes guts, dude. I mean, that was a little risky, but I love the fact that you did it on the back green where nobody could see it, just in case it blew up on you.
Yeah. Right.
What would have happened if you had gotten a lot of hard rain in that scenario? Would it have messed it up at all? Do you know?
So we have had that situation when we sprigged our second set of greens. I think they got like 1.5 inches relatively quickly within planting, like a couple hours, and just some moderate little washouts. Not that, I mean, it wasn't like the whole green disappeared.
Right.
But no.
Would this process of rolling it in as opposed to cutting it in, I mean, would that have made a difference or not at all?
Probably not. I don't think so. I mean,
I've seen cutting greens wash out sprigs.
Worse.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Worse.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Because once you put that slicer in there, you've loosened up the soil.
Right.
So I've seen it wash worse, but I mean, the way it recovered, we had to do some little plugging here and there for the edges of the greens, but no, I have no qualms in not cutting in a sprig and watching it rain.
How about the growing length? Was it as quick as you'd seen in other processes?
Again, I think it gets you going about 2 weeks earlier.
So you are moving up the growing a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That was probably all the C3 that you used, though.
Again, it's everything in the pot for me. It's never one thing you do, but it's always something we're looking to add to make us better.
Yeah, that's the trick of golf anyways, that there's never a silver bullet here. But the fact, you bring it up, I mean, and I am excited about soil biology, as everybody knows. But I mean, in your environment with the weather that you have, and trying to establish a young sprig to get that rooting going on, I mean, that's not easy. I mean, and you're doing it at a tough time of year, and you were battling Mother Nature quite a bit. So my hat is off to the success. I've heard nothing but phenomenal things, and Marshall has shared with me, and share again, Marshall. I mean, the place looks fantastic, right?
I mean, I tell him every time I go out, I'm proud of him. It looks amazing, and to me, it almost looks fake. I mean, it doesn't. Some of those holes you just ride by and you're like, this can't be real. I mean,
he's putting down plastic. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's like How did y'all do this? I mean, it looks awesome.
That's too funny. You know, I tell this. I have a neighbor here where I'm recording, and we know it's a little town. We have a lot of gardens, and I saw he's got these beautiful hanging baskets, and I look over and he starts laughing, and he says they're plastic. I was fairly far away, but but yeah, you can really make it look good if it's fake, but it's obviously not fake, Josh, and you're doing a hell of a job, and I appreciate all your support. You will be surprised to know that we have just spent an hour of your time, and I know you're a very busy man, so I'm going to let you get back out to the 550,000 things that you're probably doing every day. But I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful for your support. I know Marshall and you are going way back. I didn't know about the matching tattoos, and that's a little creepy, but I like the story. I think it's pretty cool. Are they exactly the same size and on the same spot?
No.
Oh, good.
No.
He was way more brave than I was.
That would have been. I don't want to hear anymore. But that
Mine's
was
technically the biggest.
Oh,
Yeah,
of course.
Probably.
His is like here.
Yeah, it's like the whole rib cage.
Oh my God. Oh, well, that's a good. I'm happy for you. If there's anything we can do, Josh, don't ever hesitate. We'll make sure that Marshall gets you a little Yeti if he hasn't already. But
Sure.
but we thank you for this. We'll probably air this fairly soon. So let us know if there's anything else we can do. I hope next time I get down there that somebody I know will drive me in his big truck to see the place, because I'd like to see what it looks like, and hopefully we can get down there sooner than later. But thank you both, and everybody that's been watching, thank you very much, or listening. And if you haven't signed up, please do, because we'll tell you who's going to be on next time, and you get to hear some cool, wonderful conversations like Josh Fleisher and our friend Marshall Evans. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Joel.
Josh.
Thank you, Joel. Thanks, Marshall.
See you
We'll
next week.
y'all soon.
Yeah, man.